On a cold evening beneath the glow of crystal chandeliers spilling warm light onto a polished sidewalk, a man named Ethan Hale stood quietly outside one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, his hand resting protectively on the shoulder of a woman seated in a wheelchair, while his young daughter clutched his other hand. Unaware that this single moment would soon rewrite all of their lives, Ethan was a single father, a construction foreman by day and a survivor of life by necessity, the kind of men whose strength didn't announce itself loudly but revealed itself when it mattered most, and tonight it mattered more than ever, because the woman beside him, Grace Whitmore, had just been denied entry by the restaurant's sharply dressed manager, who stood at the doorway with folded arms and a tight smile that carried no warmth, claiming calmly but cruelly that the establishment was not equipped for wheelchairs, and that her presence would disturb the dining experience, words that fell like stones in the silent air as onlookers slowed, some filming, others whispering, while Grace kept her chin lifted despite the sting, her legs motionless beneath a soft blanket, her eyes betraying a familiar pain she had learned to hide since the accident years ago that had taken her ability to walk but not her dignity. Ethan felt something ignite inside him then, not anger alone, but recognition, because he had seen this look before, the look of being judged as less, as inconvenient, as invisible, and he stepped forward, voice steady but unyielding, asking the manager if dignity required stares or if respect came with a price tag, and when the man scoffed and suggested they dine elsewhere, Ethan did not move, instead positioning himself squarely between the doorway and Grace, his daughter Lily squeezing his fingers tighter as he spoke louder now, not shouting, but speaking with the clarity of truth, telling everyone within earshot that no human being deserved to be treated like an obstacle simply because their body moved differently, reminding them that compassion wasn't a luxury item reserved for those who could afford it. And as murmurs grew and cameras rose higher, Grace finally looked up at him, surprised not by his defense but by the fact that a stranger would choose courage when silence was easier. The manager threatened to call security, and Ethan simply nodded, saying, "Do what you must, but so will I." And in that moment, the power shifted, not because Ethan had money or influence, but because he had conviction, and Lily, sensing the gravity of it all, spoke softly yet clearly, asking why people were being mean to her friend, a question so innocent it cracked the manager's composure, yet still he hesitated, pride warring with decency, until a voice from inside the restaurant called out, an elderly diner standing slowly, applauding, soon joined by others, claps echoing through the open doors, forcing the manager to step aside under the weight of public shame. And Grace was finally allowed inside, though the damage had already been done. But what no one there knew, not the crowd, not the manager, not even Ethan, was that Grace Whitmore was not merely a woman in a wheelchair seeking dinner. She was the majority shareholder of the restaurant's parent hospitality group, a self-made millionaire who had intentionally lived quietly since her accident, valuing observation over announcement, believing that how people treated her when they thought she had nothing revealed everything they needed to know. Dinner passed with polite service strained by uncertainty, Ethan refusing special treatment, simply asking that Grace be treated like anyone else, and when the bill arrived, he reached for it instinctively, only for Grace to gently stop him, smiling for the first time that night, telling him that kindness, real kindness, was rare and deserved recognition. And as they exited the restaurant together, the manager rushed forward, his tone suddenly respectful, offering apologies layered with desperation after receiving a phone call that drained the color from his face, because moments earlier Grace had sent a single message to her board, triggering an emergency review of management practices across all properties, and by morning, the manager would be dismissed, not out of revenge, but accountability. Outside, Grace turned to Ethan and thanked him not for standing up for her wealth or status, but for standing up when he believed she had none, telling him that courage like his deserved more than gratitude, it deserved opportunity, and weeks later Ethan would receive an offer, not charity, but partnership, to lead a community initiative making public spaces accessible, funded entirely by Grace's foundation, giving his daughter a future where compassion was currency. And as the story spread online, millions watched not because a millionaire was exposed, but because an ordinary man chose to do the right thing when no reward was promised, proving that real power lies not in who you are, but in what you stand for. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that humanity still exists in unexpected places, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because every story we share is a reminder that one moment of courage can change everything, and the next story might just change you.